as we roll along here on the rundown. If you'd like to join us on the program, 803 978 1832, 803 978 1832. As we've got several things to get into today, including if you're a Gamecock fan, you see that today, Debo Samuel has requested a trade, and one of the teams in the mix is the New York Jets. Yeah. If you're a Gamecock and a Jets fan, that's one of those things you're like, uh-oh. I mean, I kind of want him here, but then, uh-oh. I don't know if I want him going to the Jets. Samuel says he doesn't like the way he's used at San Francisco, and it's not about money. Anyway, we'll get into that. We've also got an interesting tradition at Alabama. We'll talk about that as well. Something that I didn't know about Alabama and the way that they handle their spring game. We'll get into that. But Lincoln Riley is what I want to lead off with today, because they have the Players Tribune where players, coaches, etc. get together and they can write basically open letters to fans or whoever. And generally, when you have that opportunity, you end up looking a lot better in the eyes of a fan base. Lincoln Riley blew his to hell with his open letter to the Oklahoma fan base. Here's what he said. On the plane ride to Los Angeles, so many emotions were flowing through my mind. I was so excited about USC and its potential, but I was also filled with some guilt and sadness, realizing that Norman was no longer home. There are aspects of my departure and transition that I would certainly do differently if I could do it again. I acknowledge that, and I could have handled some parts of the situation better. I absolutely own that. While I was able to talk with several players after the team meeting, I wish I could have had the time to sit down with each individual player and staff member to explain my decision. Remember, last week, Spencer Rattler, now your Gamecock starting quarterback, basically called the situation at Oklahoma toxic. Rattler said he was never given a reason why he was benched, just that Lincoln Riley felt that Caleb Williams gave the team a better chance to win. Quote, I really feel if we kept our team together, kept the same guys on the field, we would have won another ring, is what Rattler said. So it's interesting now because things have moved on. But now Lincoln Riley is the villain. You can't deny what the guy did at Oklahoma was great. You can't. But the remnants of what he's left behind, I mean, is scorched earth at its best. Former quarterback calling the environment toxic, saying my coach didn't have my back. Wow. And he's getting roasted for it on Twitter. At Jay Crosby, CBS said, did someone tell Lincoln Riley to write that after Spencer Rattler called the situation at OU toxic last week, thinking it'd somehow make him look better? Good point. Dan Wilkins says the Lincoln Riley Players Tribune thing is empty calories. Learn less than nothing. Shahan Jaharjay says writing an open letter to Oklahoma fans with the only explanation being that USC was the right job at the right time and no other details ain't going to work like you think. Either write the letter to OU fans exclusively or don't write it. Here's a thought. He could have saved himself some time and written out a letter and put it in the local newspaper there and probably would have gotten a lot better off. But Lincoln Riley now, I think he's like one of those villain coaches. People look at him and they're just like, if you're a Southern Cal fan, you're loving it. Which, by the way, go and Google his entrance at Southern Cal. It is uncomfortable. I mean, really uncomfortable. Go and check that out. Anyway, so how about we talk today about villain coaches? Because I think that villain number one this year has to be Lincoln Riley. The level of arrogance with this letter that he put in the Players Tribune is just basically silly. Yeah, this is the right program, right job. What do you think Oklahoma is? Oklahoma's been more successful than since Southern Cal has. I mean, we have to go back to what the Reggie Bush days for Southern Cal to be considered an absolute elite program. And they were, cheating for that. Reggie Bush had to give back his Heisman Trophy. I just look at it from this perspective. Yes, he could say, I built Oklahoma. And he could also say, you know what? I don't think I could take them any farther. He could also say, you know what? I want a new challenge. That's fine. But just to say this is the right job at the right time, it makes you look like you're a WWE heel. Like you're just going out there just to make people angry. So I thought we'd talk about some villain coaches today, maybe coaches from the past. I mean, Steve Spurrier made a lot of people angry with some of the stuff that he did. That's kind of where I wanted to go today. We're talking a little bit about some coaches and how they are looked upon by some other folks. I think Lincoln Riley right now is one of the most, I don't think people despise him, but I think people, they're not going to be sad if he goes out there and falls on his face. If he goes out to Southern Cal and they don't win, big like they did at Oklahoma, it's going to be a mess. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That's the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Also, we didn't really get your opinion on the spring game stuff. What I mean by that is that what did you take away from your spring game? Were there things you looked at and you were happy about? Or were there things you were like, this needs work? There were things that, I looked at for Clemson, South Carolina, and a couple of the other spring games that I watched. And you could say, all right, here's what we got. Here's what I think that could be a problem. David chiming in online with his villain coaches, Belichick, Saban, and Riley. Yeah. I mean, I think people hate Saban because he just wins. And I guess going back to the whole thing with Miami and the whole thing with leaving LSU and going there and then leaving Miami and going there. I don't know. That's a good point. Papa B online says, hey, Rob, I was wondering if South Carolina will make the tournament, the SEC tournament, the top 12 of 14 get in. Oh, man, that's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of baseball left to be played. We shall see how that works out. I agree with David, though, that the three big villain coaches right now, Riley, Belichick, and Saban. I think people hate Saban just because he wins. And Belichick, because Belichick is kind of I don't know. Belichick just comes across like he's a jerk. Harry Leg Online says Riley will demonstrate whether or not he can create a team. SoCal isn't solid. Yeah, you can definitely say that. I mean, can he possibly get himself into the mix there and win out there in the Pac-12? I got to look at their schedule, but the more and more you do research on Utah, which is what they've got coming back, you would think that Utah is going to be the favorite to go in there and win that conference this year. I think they've got Utah on the schedule. We'll see how they match up against what could be the Pac-12's best. David says, as an LSU fan, I don't care that Saban left for the NFL, but he wins so much he's easy to hate. So winning, you could be a hater. I got it. What was the whole thing with, and I can't remember the whole gist of it, but the whole thing of I'm not going to go coach there, and then he does. Wasn't that kind of what happened? Out to the phones we go, 803-978-1832. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob, heard you talking about Lincoln Riley not being very likable.
He's not.
Do you think that's just to the Oklahoma fans?
I think that just with this letter, if you're just a casual college football fan and you read the letter where he's like, it was the right job at the right time, just kind of screams arrogance, you know? Like,
Yeah,
I was too good to be here at Oklahoma. Like, Oklahoma is, the Vanderbilt of college football.
Well, Oklahoma did kind of go behind his back and, not talk to him about joining the SEC. He's the highest paid employee of the entire school.
I don't think that they have to do that. I mean, do you think they have to talk to the coach?
But I think you should have done it.
There is some folks that think that maybe he left because he didn't want to deal with that SEC schedule, and that could be valid too. Especially if they put Oklahoma in the SEC West. I mean, that's not a schedule that you want to take. Now, I still contend that the SEC East is garbage. It's Georgia and a bunch of fours basically. But if you're playing in the West, that is a tough schedule because you could end up having to play LSU, Alabama, Texas A&M.
LSU's not that good.
They won a title 2 years ago.
That was an 8-win team.
They won a title 2 years ago.
I don't fear the SEC West like a lot of people think that it's so loaded. I mean, Auburn was just about ready to get rid of their coach.
Okay, well,
Ole Miss is going to be Ole Miss again. They're not going to challenge for a national championship.
They won.
They're never going to do that.
They won 10 games last year.
Yeah, but they're never going to challenge for even to win the West. They're never going to challenge for that.
Well, we shall see on that. I still think that the cluster of games there where you have to play LSU, you have to play Alabama, going to Texas A&M, I think that's tough. I really do.
I just don't think it's tough as what a lot of people think. I think I think Alabama and Georgia floats a lot of teams a lot higher than they should be. And talking about being unlikable. Steve Spurrier was hated when he was at Florida by all the other coaches, not by the people of Florida.
I think there were a lot of people that were happy that with the way that his career worked out with the Washington Redskins. I don't think Steve Spurrier cared because when he came to South Carolina, if my memory is correct, Washington was still paying him money to not coach their football team.
Yeah, and he was still cocky.
Yeah.
I mean, Lou Holtz was real cocky when he was at Notre Dame. And then he got a little comeuppance. There's a lot of coaches that have that. But, man, I wanted to ask you a question about my Carolina Panthers.
Sure.
I want some good news here. I looked at the number one picks last year.
Right.
We could have had Fields. We could have had Davion Smith, but we went with J.C. Horn, who's not going to score any points. And we still don't have a quarterback this year, and we really don't have a wide receiver that's worthy of anything. I mean, where do you think they're going to go this year?
Well, I mean, I've heard rumors that Baker Mayfield is on his way to the Panthers. I don't know how viable that is, but I think they're going to try to put their stock in Baker Mayfield and see if he can come in and lead the team. I don't know if he can or not. And it's just the law of physics. And I know people get sick of hearing me say this, but he's not very tall. And I mean, I'm not a tall guy either, but I'm not trying to play quarterback in the NFL. There is the physics of being able to see over the shoulders of your offensive line so you can make quick passes. And the first thing that'll come out of people's mouths is, well, Drew Brees did it and Russell Wilson did it. Well, first of all, Drew Brees is an all-time quarterback, and Russell Wilson is a heck of an athlete. So it's two entirely different players. And I think that the physics of that is just tough for Baker Mayfield to be great. And I think that teams have figured out how to keep him in the pocket and use his height against him. And
but if you look at Baker Mayfield's, if you look at his record at Cleveland, he's done better than any quarterback in the last 15, 20 years. I mean, they were nothing when he got there. They're a playoff contender now.
Yeah, but a lot of that has to do with the offensive line they put together and the fact that the Cleveland defense is pretty good. They just paid their one cornerback.
Yeah, the
Denzel
cornerback.
Ward, I think, is now the number one paid quarterback in the NFL. So yeah, there's that too. I mean, there's more to them than just Mayfield. If it wasn't, they wouldn't have got into the market to get Deshaun Watson. So.
Oh yeah, there's more, but I mean, every quarterback that had been there in the last 10 years had fallen on their face in their first year, and he didn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, he at least stuck it around and got them to. I mean, there was one year they were talking about him going to the Super Bowl. Remember that? It wasn't last year; it was the year before.
Yeah, but that was the year they had like Beckham Jr. and and other guys too.
Jarvis.
But, yeah. Jarvis Landry, who I think is a heck of a receiver, but Papa B makes a good point online. You see more deflections with a shorter quarterback. Yes, you do, and that happens. So I think that's a bad move for the Panthers, and I think they should either go and draft Kenny Pickett or take your medicine this year and get Sam Darnold. And try to coach him up the best that you can and hope for a career renaissance. But, I mean, the Panthers may win 7 or 8 games this year at best.
Is Kenny Pickett going to be any better than Sam Darnold? Nobody.
I don't know.
That.
Nobody knows that.
I think he's a bust.
Well, we don't know for sure yet.
I think the people in especially in the NFL think he's a bust because they're not even talking about him round 1 now. They done moved him out of that.
Insert whatever quarterback here. I mean, whoever the number one quarterback is, okay? And that's who the Panthers should go and try to get. So we'll see how that works. The Panthers, though, I like the pick of J.C. Horn because I think that they're building that defense to get to a point where they could – I think they're trying to use the old Ravens model where they're lean on the defense and just hope the offense is adequate. Hopefully they can run the ball and do a little bit here and a little bit there and then go from there. But I don't know with the Panthers, man. They're
with Matt Rule there, his first year, I think they had 7 picks. All of them were on the defensive side of the football. And they've done nothing with those picks. Matt Rule's
you're sleeping on J.C. Horn, man. I think J.C. Horn's going to be a top 5 cornerback. I really do. You got to have those two.
Yeah, but you could have got Patrick Surtain at that. You could have traded back and got a cornerback.
I think that J.C. Horn's going to be that great. And if you're telling me I could have J.C. Horn or Justin Fields, I'm taking J.C. Horn because I don't think Justin Fields is going to be as great as everybody thinks he is.
I think he will be.
Well, we'll see on that.
He can move, and he's got the size. But the Carolina Panthers, I hate to know I got to go to them games this year.
Well, good luck with that, sir. We'll see how that works out for you, man. Hey, I appreciate you calling the show. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We come back. If you want to talk about the stuff with the Panthers, you want to talk about Deebo Samuel moving, you want to talk about the toxic environment at Oklahoma, according to Spencer Rattler. We can get into all that and more in just a moment. This is The Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. No, I don't see any comments. Sorry. All right, y'all didn't block him, did you? All right, so here's what I got. Because I know you guys are going to ask, what is it that Rob is drinking? This is called an Isopure. Yes. Isopure. There are no carbohydrates. 160 calories, but it's 40 grams of whey protein. Yeah. I got to have like 140 grams of protein every day in my diet now, according to my my coach. And it's just not easy. I wasn't rude to him yesterday. I mean, I don't think I was. I just think that I don't think anybody should block anybody. There's nothing that anyone can say in there that would make me think, you know what? I'm going to block that guy. Unless you put out something that's like, if you put out some racial nonsense, something that's going to bring the channel harm, okay. I'm not going to have all that. So the way that Papa B, I don't know how much you're working out, but I mean, I've lost a good bit of weight with this, but I bit the bullet and went back to what I've always done and got back into my training with my coach. And I work out basically an hour a day, and I do what's called macros. I do like lazy macros is what she calls it, and it's 800 grams, which is about 6 cups of fruits and vegetables a day. And then I do you get your set of protein. Keto flu. I don't know what that is, Jay. That's funny though. Peg and Megan says, Rob, not only do I not block you, but I keep coming back for more. I'm an idiot. Yeah. Why did you put a B in front of your name? Your name's always been Peg and Megan. What is this B? The hell's that? Changing your name, thinking that nobody knows that your name's Peg and Megan? Nonsense. I don't know what keto flu is, but that's funny. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. We're talking about the, quote, toxic environment, according to Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma, and the arrogant players' tribute notice or tribune letter to the Oklahoma fans from Lincoln Riley. And look, if you're a kid and you're thinking about, hey, maybe I'm going to go to Southern Cal. If you look at what Spencer Rattler said, how can any kid go there? He just said, I don't think this guy had my back, and it was a toxic environment. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, what if Rattler was the problem? I get that. But then I read the Tribune letter, and I realize that he is about really, really arrogant. Really, really arrogant. And it makes you wonder if Lincoln Riley would actually have your back. We'll see. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Is that one of the things that you would want to, would that keep you from going there if you were a recruit? We could talk about that. Debo Samuel, I wanted to get into this for a moment. The big thing here is that he's requesting a trade from the 49ers because he doesn't like the way he's being used, but it's not about money. One of the teams that everyone's throwing out there is the New York Jets. Look, let me give you some advice there. Okay, Debo Samuel? You don't want to play for the Jets. That's where careers go to die. They can't keep a head coach. Why would you? I mean, wouldn't you rather stay in San Francisco where there is an offensive-minded head coach there who, let's be honest, has made you the star that you are with designing plays and making you that tweener player where you could play running back, you could play wide receiver. Yeah, you're taking more hits there. I get that. But if that's the case, ask for more money. It should always be about money when you're a running back in the NFL because you don't have very many years there. We shall see how that works out. Justin says, Rob, will Spencer Rattler give South Carolina more wins this year to make it to a Sugar Bowl? I don't know. I'm not feeling that at all. So we'll have to see how that works out for the fine folks at South Carolina. I mean, having him there and with the way that the players that they brought in, maybe that's something that South Carolina could aspire for. But I think he's going to play at South Carolina one season, and then that's it. It's going to be completely it. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on The Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. If you want to call in and talk about that, we can get into that. We can also talk about the spring games and what you took away from it. We can talk about what you think your team needs to go and get, because the clock is ticking. You got what, 10 days left in this month? Yeah, we'll see how that works out. Because after that, I mean, it's kind of over. But I wonder if in the next couple of days, we're going to have some more folks that are moving on. You already see tons of folks in the Twitter world there as far as the transfer portal. Brent asked if I'm worried about my Phoenix Suns with Booker being out. Yes. McCollum, Ingram, and Valanciunas are outstanding for New Orleans, and they could knock off my Phoenix Suns. They really, really could. So, yeah, I'm kind of worried about that. All right, quick break. When we come back, we'll have more for you here on The Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Yeah, they're not. It's not good at all. If Phoenix can win one more game and he can come back for game 5. Always been a Suns fan. Look at this. That's right. Yeah, buddy. My retro Dan Marley jersey. Boom. Love the Phoenix Suns. You're trending on Twitter? Yeah, you better be nice to me. I'll Photoshop your face into a goat. You don't want to do that. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. Podcast will be up at 5 o'clock if you missed any of the show. Get ready for the NFL draft coming up. And I think the cool part about that is that we have kind of a point in the sports season where we're going to follow the NFL draft, and then we're going to have a little bit of time there to enjoy some college baseball. But we're almost on the horizon of football. I mean, we're pretty much almost to May. Once we get to the 1st of June, you could start thinking about, we're not that far off. Really not that far off from college football season knocking down the door. Speaking of which, looking at some of the spring games, some of the things I took away from the Clemson spring game, the big thing was the offense being inadequate. That's the best term there. I'm not sure. And once again, this is something that you look at and you're like, all right, it's just a spring game. I think that the folks that are having Clemson and they're having them in their top 4 at the beginning of the season, they should probably hold off a little bit on that. Just a little bit. Until they can figure out if DJ Uiagalelei is going to be the guy that is the one to go for them. Because right now, the way that offense looks, it just looks just not good. I mean, I can't really use any other words to put it out there. And just judging it on the spring game, I know that it's like, all right, you could have the glass is half full folks telling me things like, yeah, Kobe Pace will be back, and Will Shipley will be back, and Bo Collins, all those guys, they didn't play. And I can buy that too. Oh, Uiagalelei was throwing to scout team receivers. You know what? I don't want to hear that nonsense. Don't want to hear it. You have to be better than what they showed, in my opinion. So the offense is the key for Clemson this season because I think the defense will probably play lights out. I really do. Peg and Megan Online says inadequate is being awful kind. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't know of another word that I can use that, I'm trying to be polite, but awful, mediocre. Where else can we go? I mean, there's tons of stuff there that we can talk about, but the reality is the Clemson season hinges on that offense. And we're going to be looking into that as we move forward here. How good can that offense be? Or are they going to rebrand themselves and try to be a power running team, which I think is going to be a problem with the offensive line that they have? Can Coach Austin, the new offensive line coach, get his guys from being the team that's creating setups for the passing game and say, you know what, we're just going to be nose to the grind and try to run the ball down your throat? And by the way, that'll work with a good portion of the schedule there. The Clemson football schedule this season is hot dog water. And I'll use that term until I'm proven wrong. As you look at it right now, once again, it's kind of hard to sit here and say, hey, the schedule will be tough as the season goes on. I'm just saying, when you really look at the way the schedule is set up, in the preseason FPI, the highest ranked team Clemson plays is number 5 at Notre Dame. They get a week off to prepare for that matchup. So you get a bye week before you play Notre Dame, is the way that it looks. And then it gets a little bit different in that after that, who's your tough game? I think Miami's at 18, something like that. But I tell you this because if Clemson's having some problems getting the passing game in tune, they're not opening up with the Georgia Bulldogs this season and playing a generational type defense. They're not. They're playing a Georgia Tech team that has had a bunch of guys transfer out, and Coach Collins is probably on his last leg. So, yeah, the Georgia Tech, Louisiana Tech, those 2 games at the beginning of the season, Clemson will have an opportunity. They can just go out there and kind of hand the ball off and, let Uiagalelei make smart throws and lean on the defense until they go from there. Papa B says you got to pass versus the SEC. You're right. He also says power running probably gets you by in the ACC. You're right. Steve says lots of Clemson offensive starters were out for the spring game. And you're right, Steve. Just having your top 2 running backs not play, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Brent asked if I remember Charles Barkley. Of course I do. We're talking about the Phoenix Suns, which I am an avid Suns fan. Was up last night watching the Suns play the New Orleans Pelicans, and I literally shook my head at the end of the game. How can a team with a guy that has the NBA, what I think is going to be the MVP, in Devin Booker and Chris Paul on it, lose to a team called the Pelicans? Who the hell named their team the Pelicans, by the way? When I think of New Orleans, I don't think of Pelicans in New Orleans. I was stationed in New Orleans. I don't remember seeing a Pelican anywhere. Why do you name your team the Pelicans? I don't get that at all. But anyway, yeah, the Suns have some issues right now with Devin Booker being out, and it's not very good. I'm up late at night watching them lose to the Pelicans. What a mess. Justin talking about the USFL. He likes the USFL better than the NFL because they've got a Alabama team in there. Okay. The USFL, what I like about it is that it is football in a time where we don't have football. It's kind of hard to sit here and say, you know what? I'm going to attach myself to this USFL team. First of all, they claim, all right, you've got the Michigan Maulers, the Tampa Bay Bandits. Insert team here, but they all play in Birmingham. So it's not like they have home games somewhere else. So it's a mess either way. But yeah, I don't know how the ratings are going to be. I'll have to look those up. Maybe I'll do that during the break. But it is fun to watch. It's fun to watch. The football is not exactly great. Shea Patterson, the former cornerback from Michigan, man, he took a beating because everybody thought he was going to be the guy that was going to be the best of the USFL, and he was terrible. So, yeah, that's not looking great. You can't really attach yourself to a player either and think, all right, I'm just going to root for this player because they're not going to be there anyway. If they play really well, they'll end up on an NFL team. That's the way that it works. None of them are aspiring to be a USFL player for the next 4 or 5 years. So nobody's aspiring to be that. They want to play enough there, not get hurt, and then move on to the NFL. Why? Because they get paid more money. It's not like they were given, who was it? I think Herschel Walker played in the USFL, if I remember correctly. And, you folks can let me know if I'm wrong. I think Reggie White played in the USFL back in the first existence of it, and they were giving them big money. These guys aren't making that kind of money. They want to go with the NFL and make that big money. We shall see. All right, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. And what else? Oh, the podcast is up. Be up at 5 o'clock this afternoon. Thanks to folks for downloading that. Jimmy with a good point. Jim Kelly played in the USFL. Very good, sir. Very good. Quick break and we come back. We'll have more for you on the Rundown right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I thought that Jay was just telling us he didn't get like caramel corn or like some Cracker Jacks or something. He just got the regular popcorn. I didn't take racism away from that. No. The NFL does not need a team in Alabama because Alabama would kill that NFL team. What do you mean by that? They don't want any money going anywhere except to the Crimson Tide. Go and Google what they did to UAB. They won't have a that's not going to work at all. That's not going to work at all. I don't think that there's enough population and money there for it, to be honest with you. And I don't think that the average college football fan really cares about the NFL to that extent. I mean, if you're a true college fan, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I will watch Newberry, which is the small school here in state, or Charleston Southern or Coastal. I'll watch Sunbelt games before I'll watch the NFL before it gets to the playoffs. Seriously. I just can't. The NFL regular season games are it's just flat to me. And I think a lot of the guys, and this is the way it used to be before the transfer portal and everything else, but a lot of those guys in college, I mean, they're playing for their hearts and souls and everything else. The NFL is just a job. Let me go out here and make plays. I don't know if they'd support it or not. Like, I don't think that there's a lot of people that support the Panthers in our state here. I mean, people think, that's Charlotte's team. Let them have it. There's more Redskin fans here than there are. What are they? The Commanders? Is that what they're called now? The Washington Commanders? My bad. I can't say Redskins. See, now I'm going to be running around like Jay. What a mess. 803-978-1832. Ladies and gentlemen, I just messed up something. I referred to the Washington football team as the Redskins. I guess I'm going to get canceled for that. Still call them the Redskins. They have the name of, they're the Commanders now. The Commanders. And I was watching some baseball the other day about, the Cleveland Guardians. That's, man. And, I'm also of the opinion, though, that if I own a team, I should be able to call it whatever I want to call it. And if they chose to change their name to that, then fine. But I think I'm on record as saying this. If the Atlanta Braves change their mascot to the Atlanta Bass Fish or the Stripers, with like what they have with their Gwinnett team, I don't think I could be a Braves fan anymore. Can't run around with a fishing hat on. What is that all about? We were talking also during the break about why doesn't the state of Alabama have a football team as far as the NFL goes? I don't think that the college fans there would care about it as much, which leads us to Steve's comment online. He says, I used to be a big NFL fan, but since cancel culture, woe joke, I no longer care that much. Worried that college football and NIL will implode. Yeah, there's that too. I think that as a society now, we don't want, or maybe there's a portion of us that don't want a lot of politics into their sports. Sports is the great escape, man. It doesn't matter who you are. We could sit down together, with the exception of Peg and Megan online, because no one wants to sit with him. But the rest of us can sit down and we can have a conversation about sports, and we can despise each other because of the teams that we support. I don't like you because you are a insert team here. Nobody used to care about how you voted. No one cared. And sports were the absolute best way for folks to come together, because we could all be fans of something. Really could. And then everything's gone to down the road now. And I know people can, the other side of that is that athletes have been doing their politics in sports forever. And they'll throw Muhammad Ali's name out there and the stuff from the Olympics. Yeah, and I get that. But I don't want, when I watch a game, that's supposed to be, I'm watching the game. I know that's, people will say you're closed-minded, Rob, when you say stuff like that. No, I think there's a good portion of people that agree with me. Now, I do think there's a section of people that will say things like, I am boycotting this because of political issues with that. And the reality is that they are lying. They're lying. People still watch the NFL. There were people that were upset about the Kaepernick thing. And the folks that came out and said, I'm done with the NFL. Yeah, they came back. They really did. Now, there are the true college football fans that are hardcore with it, and they weren't going to watch the NFL anyway. So for them to say it was like, all right, it's like with me saying, I'm giving up carrot cake. I don't like carrot cake. So it's not really giving up anything. But the numbers show that people still watch the NFL. And it's just, I think people make, they just make too many hardcore decisions with, this is how politically it looks. And it's just sad. It's just sad. Just go back to, all right, the only reason I don't like you is because of you don't like X team. Maybe there's that. All right, 803-978-1832 as we roll along here this afternoon on the rundown. Final segment of the show. I've got a story. Hold on. Oh, it's about Nick Saban. They have a very unique tradition at Alabama. So the team that wins the spring game, so the winner of the spring game gets a, quote, fancy meal. And the team that loses gets franks and beans with white bread. That's not a joke. So if you're playing in the spring game at Alabama and you lose, you get franks and beans with white bread. And apparently, Dallas Turner, who plays for the Tide, was trying to pass some chocolate cake across to a player on the losing team. But Nick Saban was like, nope, that's not happening. They lost. Let them eat their beans and franks and their white bread and get the hell out of here. What a great tradition. Can you imagine that? I mean, I'm sure there's traditions at each school that are like that, but that might be my new favorite thing. You're going to play hard in the spring game, or you're going to eat beans and weenies with some white bread at Alabama. That's great. Traveling Fools Online says, I don't watch the NFL because I'm a Dolphins fan and they're horrible. Well, at least you're with it. By the way, the Dolphins are Tua Tagovailoa with everything they put together for them. If he doesn't have a good season, might be bye-bye time. Lee says it could be potted meat. Yeah, or some Spam. How about some Spam? A little Spam action there. All right. Oh, I've also got some early Heisman Trophy odds via FanDuel. CJ Stroud's at plus 200. Bryce Young's at plus 400. Caleb Williams is at plus 1,200. The following three quarterbacks are all at 3,000. Tyler Van Dyke, Jackson Dart, and DJ Uiagalelei. I mean, okay. All right. I mean, I guess, Vegas wants to get your money, so you can go and put some money down on Uiagalelei at plus 3,000. I mean, if that's what you want to do. Other names in the mix: Quinn Ewers, Keaton Slovis, Dylan Gabriel, all at plus 4,000. Spencer Rattler's at plus 5,000. Bijan Robinson's at 5,000. And Will Levis is at 5,000. Bijan Robinson, if I had to pick one where I could actually make some money there, I think he'll be in the mix to be in New York City. So there's that. 803-978-1832. That's the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the rundown. Will Levis at plus 5,000. That's who's he going to throw the ball to? Kentucky fans are wondering that themselves. we shall see on that. 803-978-1832. Jay says he was a Dolphins fan for 20 years down in Orlando. It's been rough. Yeah. The best Dolphin story, though, that I have was from Corey Jenkins, who's now the Dreer High School head coach here in the Midlands, but told me on an interview I did with him a while back that his mentor at Miami was Junior Seau, and they kind of wanted to beat the crap out of Nick Saban when he was there. Yeah. Nick Saban was not very well thought of with the pro players. Apparently, Junior Seau wanted to hit him in the teeth, according to Corey Jenkins, who played on that team. So there's that. All right, tomorrow on the program, we'll have whatever else comes our way as we follow the transfer portal, because we've got, 14 days? 12 days left in transfer portal season. Who's going to get what? We'll find out. We'll keep track of that tomorrow. Here on the Rundown, this is Fox Sports Radio 1400. All right, you guys are awesome. Appreciate y'all. We'll see you guys later on.